Yes. What's going on, guys? This has been AKA Day Trading Addict, and I have another good video for you guys. Today, we are going to talk about the only supply and demand scalping video you will ever need. Trust me, you're gonna love this video. So let's go. Okay, so we're gonna go over what I'm going to talk about, and this works in any market. It doesn't matter if it's the Forex market, the stock market, the futures market, it will work, okay? So let's go over what I'm gonna talk about today. First thing I'm gonna talk about, guys, is why I use supply and demand, right? Second thing I'm gonna go over is how to draw supply and demand zones. Third thing I'm gonna go over is what setups to use. Fourth thing I'm gonna go over, guys, is combining supply and demand with other technicals, right? The next thing I'm going to go over is how to trade reversals using supply and demand. And the last thing we're gonna go over is when supply and demand zones break, right? So let's go. Okay, so why do I like to use supply and demand? It's very simple. We have big players in the market, okay? Some people call them smart money. Some people call them, other things. But we're going to call them smart money today, okay? Big players. These guys have a lot of money. We're talking about millions and billions of dollars. And they can actually move the market, okay? So the reason why we want to use supply and demand is because when the big players dump their money inside the market, you can see it a lot of times on the chart, okay? And supply and demand gives you that heads up. So supply is aggressive selling and demand is aggressive buying. And that's all we are looking for. We are looking for either a whole bunch of green candles in a row or a whole bunch of red candles in a row if we're looking for supply, okay? Now, once we see supply and demand, that tells us that the big players are getting involved. And it's a strong possibility that move either to the downside or to the upside could actually continue to go up or continue to go down. And we're going to use that and take advantage of that. So that's why I use supply and demand. I want to follow the rich. The rich knows more than anybody in this room. So that's why I follow the rich. Now, when it comes to supply and demand, I use something that's called short-term supply and demand. Let me show you guys real quick. Now, when I was introduced to supply and demand, a lot of these guys will use zones that's so far away, and I scalp sometimes, and I'm a day trader, so I can't rely on zones that's so far ahead. So I started to back test, and I realized the market is a wave machine. So let me show you real quick. So if you look at this market right here, it's going up, it's going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Now, once you study the market, you'll realize a lot of these waves have supply and demand attached to it. And that's how I trade supply and demand. So let's say that this wave right here has demand, okay? As soon as it touches that demand area, I'm looking for a trade to the upside so I can make some profits. So that's how I use supply and demand. I'm taking advantage of the waves that the market creates every single day, right? So let's go to how to draw supply and demand zones. Let's go. Okay, so right here, guys, we have nice aggressive selling right here, okay? You can't deny that. Nice aggressive selling. Now, a couple of ways you can draw your zone. You can start with the candle that started the whole move. So I usually go with the highest candle. So if it's going down, you go with the highest candle, which is right here. This candle right here started the whole move to the downside, right? So you can take that candle and say, all right, I'm going to wait for the market to basically go to the zone right here, and then I'm going to take that trade. Or what I like to do is I like to take the meat of the move, okay? Now, that's basically covering all the candles that's around it. So notice how we have all these candles that's around that supply zone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all those candles right here and then basically extend the zone all the way to the left. And the reason why I'm doing that is because sometimes you will see the market, okay, go to that zone, and sometimes it won't even go to the last candle. So it will go to either this candle right here, hit that zone, and go back down. So what we want, okay, is to make sure that we don't miss the move. So that's why I have a nice size zone, all right? So that's how I draw my zones. Now, if you are a beginner, I do have an indicator that helps you find the supply and demand zones. Let me show you guys real quick. Let me turn on the indicator. Notice how we have the S sign right here. The S stands for supply. And basically The reason why it's showing S is because we had that aggressive selling right here, okay? And basically the market came back to that zone, right? And notice how it never went above the zone right here, okay? And it sold off. Now, notice how we have aggressive selling right here again, and the indicator is showing us supply. So this indicator is good for beginners, okay? But you don't really need it because once you understand supply and demand, you can see this yourself. So now let's go to what setups you guys can use. So let's go. Okay, so the first setup I'm going to talk about that you can use is called a double bottom. So notice how we have aggressive buying right here, right? And it came back to this demand zone, right? Now we have one low right here, okay? And then we have another one right here. Now, once you see a double bottom at demand, it's a strong possibility the market will continue to go back up because the sellers try to bring the market down and they can't, okay? So this is a nice area right here to get in, okay? And look for your profits to the upside. Now let's go to the next setup. Now this setup is called a rejection bar, okay? So we're looking for the market to come back into the zone, all right? And we want to look for a nice rejection, okay? Notice how we have a nice wick right here. So right here, we have aggressive buying right here, and the market came back to that demand zone. And notice how we had this red candle, all right? The market was red all the way to here, okay? And then the buyers stepped in, made that nice rejection, and then the market kept going up, right? So that's what we're looking for. Those are two setups that you guys can start with, okay? And you can always use your favorite setup as supply and demand, right? So now let's talk about combining supply and demand with other technicals. So let's go. Okay, so right here, guys, we have a nice supply, okay, zone right here. Notice how we have aggressive selling right here. Now, we're actually going to combine support and resistance with supply and demand. Now, you can actually combine supply and demand with anything. You could combine it with Fibonacci, support and resistance, trend lines, horizontal lines, whatever you want to use, guys. You can actually combine supply and demand with anything. So that's why I love to use supply and demand, because you can actually combine it with anything. So right now, I'm actually going to talk about support and resistance. So right here, guys, we have support right here, okay, that actually turned into resistance. So we have this nice support, and this support right here is going to turn into resistance. So we have resistance and we have a supply and demand zone lining up. And notice how we have the market basically coming to that supply zone right here, right? And if you put your stop loss above that supply zone right here, you know, this would have been a nice trade, okay, to the downside. So right here, guys, nice trade, straight to the point. Everything is lining up. And this is how you can actually combine supply and demand with other things, okay? You just don't have to use supply and demand by itself. You could if you want to, but you also combine it with other things, right? So now we are going to talk about how to trade reversals using supply and demand. So let's go. Now, the reversal pattern we are going to look at today is called a head and shoulders, okay? So right here, this is actually an inverse, so it's turned upside down. So let me show you guys how it looks, right? So right here, we have the head, okay? That's the highest or the lowest part. Right here, we have the left shoulder, okay? And right here, we have the right shoulder. Now, when you have this pattern alone, okay, it's very powerful. But when you see supply or demand combined with this head and shoulders, okay, is a good trade. So right here, guys, we see what? Aggressive buying to the upside. A whole bunch of green candles. Now it's coming back to, all right, this demand zone right here. So I'm looking at this. I'll say, all right, let me draw my zone. Depending on how I like the trade, sometimes I'll go in with a limit order. But if you're new, you probably want to look for a confirmation. Notice how we have a nice double bottom, and plus we have nice rejections over here. So I like this nice double bottom right here. 1, 2. You can put your stop loss either below the zone, or you could put it a little bit below the candles, okay? Sometimes I like to have a small stop loss, so I will put it either, you know, behind the candles, all right? And I'm looking for profits. So basically, that's a nice way to trade reversals using supply and demand, right? Let me show you guys another example. Okay, guys, so here is a regular head and shoulders. What do we have here, guys? We have the head right here, okay? We have the left shoulder right here. And also, we have the right shoulder right here. Notice how we have aggressive selling to the downside right here, okay? aggressive selling to the downside. And we came back to that zone, okay, right here. So this is a nice zone right here. Again, you can look for confirmation or you get in right away. So let's say that you went short right here, put your stop loss above that zone, right? And you're looking for profits. So this is how you can actually combine supply and demand using a head and shoulder pattern, okay? So let's go to the last thing I want to talk about, which is when supply and demand zones break. So let's go. Okay, guys, so right here we have a supply. So notice how we have aggressive selling right here. Price came back to that supply zone, okay? So we are looking to take a trade. But notice how price broke this zone to the upside. Now, a lot of supply and demand traders will tell you, oh, this zone is no good. We're going to look for another zone because it broke the zone. Me personally, I've been trading for 13 years, actually 14 years because I started in August, all right? So now it makes 14 years. And I noticed that when it breaks the zone, if it doesn't break it that much, notice how it broke the zone just a little bit, okay? They came back again and broke it a little bit, all right? If it breaks the zone a little bit, it's okay. You can still use the zone. So notice how it broke a little bit, it came back, it broke. So notice how we have this nice rejection right here, guys. This nice rejection. That alone would tell me, okay, it's time to get in the market. So me personally, I would get in that short right there, okay, to the downside, and I will look for profits, right? So that's how you deal with a supply or demand zone. If it breaks it just a little bit, guys, it's okay. To me, the zone is still valid, okay? That's just based on my back testing. All right, so guys, that's it. Now, before we wrap it up, okay, you have to understand supply and demand is not something you go in the market and you trade 10, 20 different times, guys, right? When you look for these zones, make sure it's a clear picture and you take that trade. And then when you see that supply or demand, boom, you take it and you look for your profits. All right, so that's it, guys. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and also join my free Telegram group because I try to post charts like this in the group, and sometimes I give you guys exclusive discounts for my trading program. And if you don't have my trading program by now, guys, make sure you check that out because it will take your trading to the next level. If you want to become that full-time trader, this will help you guys. All right, so if you have any questions, comment below because I try to answer all your guys' questions. Thanks for your time, and please have a great day.